Welcome to The Standard. From Vancouver, I'm Randall Mark. Tonight, comedian and actor Bob Saget. Mr. Saget has been a fixture on television for well over a decade, starring in shows like Full House and hosting America's Funniest Home Videos. But this longtime stand-up comedian is nothing like the characters he played on TV. In fact, Mr. Saget has recently established a reputation for being lewd, crude, and rude in his comedy routines, and people are loving it. The Standard's Shannon Nelson sat down with Bob Saget recently and discovered that you can't always judge a book by its cover.
I know how important it is to you that I tuck you in. It's important to me, too. I love our special times together.
Despite what you might think, Bob Saget is neither the irritatingly sucky Danny Tanner from Full House, nor is he a beast of the field. Bob is a genuinely nice man with a family, friends, and a career that's once again taking off. Among several projects Bob has on the go and a busy touring schedule, Bob is hosting a second season of the popular game show 1 vs. 100 for NBC.
Hello, and welcome again to 1 vs. 100.
Welcome, Bob.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
And shame on you, Bob.
I know, right? That's all I do is apologize for my behavior.
I know.
But I still do family television. You know, I do the 1 vs. 100. We like that.
Yeah.
It entertains people.
You do lots of good things. And I have to say that I feel like I'm sitting across from somebody that's actually been living in my living room for the last, I don't know how many years.
I have been, and I apologize. I left the door jimmied.
Yeah, but you didn't make a mess.
I cleaned it up. I dust bust. I still have that ritual from the old show.
Well, we saw you as Danny Tanner on Full House,
Yeah.
which is still running.
Yeah, it runs like a nose.
Yeah, I bet. And also on that video show.
That thing, people got hit in the hoo-ha.
Yeah.
For many years.
But you're definitely not Danny Tanner.
No, I am neat. People do ask me. I do own a dustbuster, and I have used it.
Yeah.
Because if you break a glass in the kitchen, you could clean it up with your bare feet.
Yeah.
Weekly.
No.
But I'd rather do the thing. But I have always been a stand-up comedian since I started when I was 17.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of had a sense of humor that was a bit, I guess you would say, adult. And my dad always had he called it bawdy, which sounded very Canterbury Tales to me.
Yeah.
But he was one of the funnier people I've ever known in my life, and so my comedy completely came from my dad and his brothers and that kind of bunch of crazy guys that went through the Depression, you know, and so they would find humor, and sick humor a lot of times would help them through the rough times.
Right.
Gallows humor and a lot of bathroom stuff. It's really the truth. So.
Well, I just want to tell you this before we go any farther, is that I've seen The Aristocrats.
Oh, boy.
And I laughed my pants off. So
Wow.
that's who I am.
And you left your pants off,
Yeah.
which is
No,
right
okay.
to the...
Let's not
I'm
go.
not saying a thing.
All right, we are going to talk about that, but first of all, talk a bit, because I know you were doing comedy for a while before you
Right.
got the acting job, which I think is sort of the important
Right.
word.
The first job I got actually was a Richard Pryor movie called Critical Condition. That was like the first thing I got. And then
Yeah.
I did this thing on CBS called The Morning Program, which was against Good Morning America and Today's Show. So I was a morning host for 5 months, and then they said I was too hot for morning television, and they fired me.
Too hot?
Too hot. I was too hyper and too much like drive radio, I think. It
Right.
was too lucky. I was a young comic, you know.
Yeah.
And then I got Full House a few weeks later. I got very lucky. And
Yeah,
my
that's
manager.
a big acting job.
It was a big thing, and it was obviously a heightened reality.
Yeah.
People don't act like that, but there's something about the show. I'm very close with all the people on it. I talk to them constantly. I just talked to John Stamos just a half hour ago.
Yeah.
And left Dave Coulier a message. He again lost my cell number.
Oh.
I've known him since he was 17. He can't find my cell number. It's very disconcerting.
Hey, Daddy, are you going to ask her on a date?
Shell, where would you get an idea like that?
From Stephanie.
I heard it from DJ. I heard it from Joey.
I heard it from Danny. You see how these crazy rumors get started? Girls, I'm sure that Vicky feels that you don't mix business with pleasure.
Well, yes, I do feel that way.
Well, great. Then it'll work out perfect. I won't ask you out, and you won't say no.
So at the same time, you were doing Full House, which, you know, despite the fact that you were typecast
Right.
for the rest of your life, although you are doing a pretty good job of...
Well, that's over. It's
Yeah.
almost all over.
Yeah. Well, no, but there are lots of people...
Right.
There's lots of people still watching Full House and loving it, you know.
As they should.
Yeah. But at the same time, you got that video show, or it was pretty close, right?
It was a year later. They were looking for a host. At that time, you would cross-pollinate. You'd have a show with the actor on it, and you'd go ahead and let them host something on our network.
Yeah.
So they would have. So I had 2 shows at the same time, which a few people had done. Nancy Walker, Rhoda's mother, had 2 shows, and the Bounty commercials. So that's the quicker picker upper. Oh no, that was 100 handy wipes. I don't know. But I had two. It was the video show, and again, it was family television.
Yeah.
7 o'clock Sunday night in most of the world, and so you can't really talk the way I never really. I think my mouth is fouler now than it used to be.
Mine is too.
It is.
Yeah.
It happens, I think, as you get older. It's not for everybody, and which I respect, but some people you just go, it's just words, as long as you're not hurting anybody. And I don't do hurtful comedy. You know, I really don't talk about politics because it disturbs me too much as a human.
Yeah.
And I don't talk about, I do some sick humor, you know, but I don't, and I do a lot of sexual stuff, you know, innuendo, or I'm an 11-year-old with a bigger vocabulary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what's happened.
Okay, so tell me what it was like doing 2 shows. And while we're at it, let's just say that maybe somebody had done it before, but that's a pretty plum engagement.
It was a plum, and I did it so long it turned into a prune. It was fruit that had been dried.
Yeah, and how long before you started to sense that this was just not for you?
Well, you know, I would have kept doing it. That's
bad.
proper. It's not good English.
No.
That's why they couldn't have me. I couldn't speak. I would have kept on doing it.
Yeah.
That's kind of
It's good.
still sounds like I'm from Mississippi, which is fine. But I would have kept on going, trucking, if they had wanted me back, and they kind of was a mutual thing. They said you can come back and take a pay cut. It was a weird renewal, and I had kind of lost my voice. There's only 4 ways you can intro people getting hit in the groin, and weddings, and I couldn't be that guy, and yet I'm doing the game show now under my own kind of. I enjoy it. It's
You get to be yourself.
I get to be myself.
Yeah.
So they really wanted me to be more of a, and it's still a traffic copy kind of job, but I've just completed, which will be airing in a lot of places. I know it'll be all through Canada, but in the States it's on HBO, an hour special of my R-rated stand-up, which will go everywhere, and it goes on DVD 3 days later. So at the end of August, it'll be all over the world. So I'm pretty much outed at this point. So I'm freed.